on, guys? So as you see, we have a few drones in front of me. I'm pretty tired. I flew a big part of the day, drove into Chicago with 3 drones, an EVO 2 Pro 6K version 2, a Mavic 3, and a Lite Plus. Out of all of these 3 drones, 2 of them were able to fly. This one was giving me an issue with the firmware update, which required me to be back at my computer to download the files to a micro SD card and update the firmware that way. So it was really frustrating because I really wanted to get comparison footage of all 3 drones today, and I was only able to use the Mavic 3 and the Lite Plus. So I just uploaded a video. The last video, I'll put a link in the description of footage from the Mavic 3 and the Lite Plus. The Mavic 3, hands down, it was a kind of windy day today, nothing too crazy. I think, 25, 30 mile an hour gusts and probably like 15 mile an hour sustained winds. So it was a minor day, but at the same time, there were some higher wind gusts, and it was, or is, sometimes challenging to fly back from the lighthouse where I go and fly sometimes in Chicago. And this thing, for real, is just such a polished drone, and it is a pleasure to fly after you fly something like this. The EVO 2 Pro, I've flown the EVO 2 Pros in the past, and it's a really great drone. It almost feels like it's a little school bus, but really a solid drone, and it feels great, actually. It's just a nice solid drone. It's heavy, and it has a good battery life, and it has a great sensor. So nothing against this drone. I wasn't able to fly it today. I'm actually really excited to fly this thing, and I'll probably do my next comparison with the EVO 2 Pro 6K and the Mavic 3 and put these guys toe-to-toe. As far as the footage is concerned, for a complete polished drone, reliable drone, the 7x zoom optical is just really, really great, just addition to a drone to have the zoom ability. That's actually quality. The Lite Plus has the 4x zoom, but it's a digital zoom, a lossless digital zoom, so they say. And I would say it's not that bad, but it's not like the optical zoom on the Mavic 3. So if you're looking to get some really nice different compression in your footage for B-roll or whatever it may be, this is the drone for sure. The Mavic 3, of course, has geofencing with DJI. Autels do not have geofencing in place, so that's a really nice thing to not have to worry about or be concerned about. But I don't know. I mean, the Lite Plus honestly looks really good footage-wise. I'm pretty impressed with this little guy, and I think they're selling them for like $1149 now, which is pretty amazing. So roughly a $1,200 to $1,500 drone, if they're not on sale like they are, I believe, at the moment. This is more of a $1,600 drone for the on-the-go bundle right now. The version 3 is $2,500 with the smart controller. But for me, I didn't think I needed the smart controller, and I like being able to use my iPhone. So I got this guy and have 4 batteries with it. It's brand new. I haven't even flown it yet. This hasn't even been in the air. But again, I've had version 1 EVO 2 Pro 6Ks, version 2 EVO 2 Pro 6Ks. I had the Enterprise, which is a version 2 EVO 2 Pro 6K. So I do know this drone well, and it is a workhorse, and it can produce really nice night imagery. It has a great 1-inch sensor for taking still pictures. So I always said this is the best photography drone out there. I still think it gives you a better file than the Mavic 3 for that example. And footage-wise, again, we're going to see soon when I go and test these 2 drones. But the Lite Plus did pretty darn well, but I think the Mavic 3 shined and just looked a little bit more natural as far as the footage is concerned. But the Lite Plus did hold its own, and it's basically half the price. So there's that. I'm tired, so I'm kind of faded. I didn't really want to do this video tonight, so I figured I'd just do it while it's kind of fresh in my mind. But I edited some video today and just trying to organize stuff, and I had to update the firmware on this. And so you guys are aware, if you do have an Autel drone, when you're updating the firmware, the best way and the most reliable way is to actually go to Autel's website, grab the latest firmware, download it to your computer, and then put it into the root directory of the micro SD card. And for me, I thought I'd just drag the folder over. That didn't work, so I had to actually extract the files from the folder. You actually drag the files from the firmware update folder into the root directory of your micro SD card, and then you put the micro SD card in the drone, and then you power on the remote, and then you power on the drone, and it will go ahead and manually update the firmware. So that's the way to do it, because it always gives me issues when I try to do it through the phone, through the actual Autel Explorer app. It just never seems to want to play nicely. So that's the for sure way of updating the firmware for anyone who has an Autel or is thinking about getting an Autel drone. Do it that way and you're going to save yourself a lot of headache. Because when I was out on location, guess what? I was rendered pretty much useless and I wasn't able to actually launch and was grounded with this drone because I didn't have a computer. So anyway, the Mavic 3, great drone. And this is pretty much my favorite drone out of all of these. I love this drone too. The EVO 2 Pro is a really great Autel drone. And actually the Lite Plus is a pretty cool little drone too. This is going to take the Autel Sky app, which I'm not a huge fan of because I believe it needs a little updating. This is using the Autel Explorer app, which is a pretty simple, straightforward, kind of more like the Go 4 app for DJI. I think it's a little bit more professional feel than the Sky app, but a lot of people don't like the Fly app. I actually love the Fly app. So I think it's one of the best apps out there personally for flying drones. That's me. So this guy really is the winner, chicken dinner, boom, boom. But flying wise, this guy does not give me the confidence of this drone. And that's the bottom line. When I pick this thing up and fly it, I know it's going to work. I know it's going to fly well. I know it's going to cut through winds. I know it's going to get back to me with no issue because the thing is just a really great drone and it flies amazingly well. This is a little bit less predictable in my opinion, and I had some issues with it already. I believe Autel is going to have to, I'm going to ship this thing back in. They may actually have to replace it again. So I don't know what was happening. I was having some flicker issue in my footage. I had it crash into a pole when I launched, which was very weird because I've never had that happen in 7 years of flying. I just literally launched into the air. I had satellites and the thing just flew backwards into a pole. So tried to push forward to counter the movement and nothing worked. So I don't know. So there's that. What else is there? I really don't have much to say about this drone because I haven't flown it in such a long time. But these two drones, this is to me the best drone out of the Autel lineup for cinematography and photography. This is hands down the best drone in DJI's lineup in my opinion for the same thing, photography and cinematography. Of course, if you're wanting to shoot ProRes, you're going to want to have the Cine version. The Classic I would avoid because, as I said, the 7x zoom, if you saw the ending clip, the compression you can get is basically like an Inspire 2 with a 25 or 45 millimeter Olympus lens, and you just can't get that different look and feel, almost like you're in a helicopter with any other drone. And look at this thing. This thing is so small. It would be nice if the optical zoom was a little better sensor, but for what it's worth, the 7x zoom, when you're using it in the right light and the right conditions, it's a little bit more tricky because you have to be a little bit more finessed with the movements in order for it to not get shake, but you can obviously control some of that in post as well. But this drone is just a pleasure to fly. This guy is actually a pretty darn good drone, and it actually surprised me to the point where I don't know if I'm going to keep my EVO 2 Pro 6K or I'm going to keep the Lite Plus, because this is just kind of like an easy Autel fix for not a lot of money. And this is a little bit more of a workhorse serious drone with the case, with the 4 batteries and the hub, but it is a very solid drone and I love the way it feels because it is just like a little school bus or something. It just has a nice, robust build, which I love. And it's a cool looking drone. It's orange, it's solid, it's version 2. I actually like this one over the Enterprise, even though the Enterprise has a little bit stronger motors and the carbon fiber arms. I still think this is the better option for most people. So that's just a little wrap up of these 3 drones. Anyone who's in the market for an Autel, this I believe is going for $15.99 right now for 2 batteries on the Go bundle. So not a bad price. This is going to be around $2,000 and this is going to be around $1,200 for the premium edition, which comes with 2 batteries. But the sensor on this, the RYYB sensor, it's a 1-inch sensor as well. It's a little bit newer sensor than the EVO 2 Pro 6K, but the EVO 2 Pro 6K shoots 10-bit in log, so you're going to get that ability of the bigger color gamut with the 10-bit color, and you're not going to be able to get that with this. But this honestly does pretty darn well, and I watched it on my TV and on different monitors, and it really seems to look pretty good. But again, everyone has their thing. Some people say there was some flickering in some of the footage that I shot. It looked a little too sharp. So this, to me, I think is the winner out of all the drones. But if you are in a situation where you want to get to a certain height, for example, and DJI just has their geofencing in place, guess what? It really sucks. Even though this is a great drone, when you get stuck because of the geofencing, that's when these guys shine and you're just really relaxed and you enjoy the freedom of the Atort, no geofencing. So these guys give you the freedom to fly and to do what you need to do in order to get your footage. Of course, you got to do it safely and legally, but at the same time, this is definitely the most polished, refined drone now. When it first got launched, it wasn't. It was more of a beta testing kind of thing with the firmware, so it was really kind of premature in my opinion. But now, months later, almost probably a year later by now, this thing is a super polished, amazing drone, and probably the winner as far as my favorite drone to fly. Hands down, this guy is just awesome. Maneuvers really well. It drops altitude really well because of the legs. They're really kind of thin. So when you're coming down, it just breaks through the air so efficiently. It's pretty darn cool. So that is it. And stay tuned for a comparison with the Mavic 3 against this guy, the EVO 2 Pro 6K version 2, and we shall see what wins. I will shoot this in probably 6K normal color, and then I'll probably shoot this in log 10-bit and color grade it, and then I'll shoot this in probably 5K, I would imagine, and compare the footage, and we shall see what shines. I'm actually curious to see which will look better between these two drones, but reality is the Mavic 3 is an amazing drone to fly, and it frickin' rocks. And this drone does too, but it's not gonna give you at all the same kind of flight experience. It's gonna be different, but it's gonna be a lot more sluggish, but it is a killer drone with a killer sensor, and it does produce really robust images and files, so be conscious of that. So a little wrap up from the day, and subscribe if you guys are into drones, and I will be producing more stuff, hopefully getting towards 4,000 subs, which is kind of cool. Just fun to break a number. It's a little thing. Maybe I can get to 10,000 by the end of the year. That would be the goal for 2023. So it will help if you comment, thumbs up, subscribe, and that's it, guys. Aloha, bye.